Hey guys, I'm Rich from NeoWin. Today we're talking about the BlackBerry KEY2. So normally I would do my regular unboxing, but I've actually had this phone for close to a week now, so it wouldn't be fair to just do a first impressions video when the embargo lifts. And also, I recorded that video and I spent the majority of the time complaining about the Android out-of-box experience, which is frankly terrible. And since we are taking sort of a second impressions look right now, it's worth mentioning that it is terrible, and the out of box is better than some other Android phones, but it's also, once you get into it, there's a ton of apps that are just giving you pop-ups to show you what they do, and that whole thing, and asking permissions all over the place. It's really a mess, but luckily it's not a big deal because most users only go through it once, but it is worth mentioning. So this is the BlackBerry KEY2. That's just, I got a pop up when I just brought it up. So anyway, this is the BlackBerry KEY2. The space bar here, that doubles as a fingerprint reader. All right, and we do have the physical keyboard that BlackBerry is known for. Now, the processor included is the Snapdragon 660, so Qualcomm has various tiers of processors. There's the 200, 400, 600, and 800. Previously there was. And the 200 is the very low end. The 400 is meant to be the lower mid-range. The 600 series was the upper mid-range, and then there's the 800 series for premium handsets. Now, this phone costs $649, but however, the 600 series has kind of two tiers. There's the 630-ish, and this is the 660. So this is an octa-core processor. Cryo 260 has an Adreno 512 GPU. So Qualcomm actually makes these processors for high-end phones. Now, it's differentiating between high-end and premium. Now that the 660 is kind of turning into that Snapdragon 700 range that it recently announced. Okay, because the fact is that most people don't need a phone with the Snapdragon 845 processor. In fact, these processors are going in laptops now. So this phone has 64 gigs of storage and 6 gigs of RAM, as you can see from the box right here. So it's going to be able to do everything you need it to do. Now, there's lots of, I've installed all my software on here, but there's some BlackBerry software that's installed on here. There's BBM, which I have not used once, and I will probably not use. Well, see, there's those pop-ups that I'm talking about. I will probably never use this for the time that I have it, because truthfully, I don't know anybody that uses BBM, and I'm not going to have a chance. There's this new World Cup trivia thing that just popped up one day. And fantastic. I don't know. There's the messaging hub, which I think is a lot more interesting. And what's cool about this is that it's combining my Facebook messages, my SMS, my email, Hangouts, anything that gets messages shows up in that app. So what happens is if I click on a notification, if I click on Facebook here, it launches Facebook and brings me to that post. And if I click on a message from Hangouts, it opens Hangouts, and so on. And that's really cool, if you ask me. I've always wanted that sort of a messaging hub, because I think we all kind of use those different messaging applications, one for SMS, one for Facebook, one for, well, I use Hangouts. I know a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people use WhatsApp. I don't. And Twitter DMs. And really, across the board, we're all using a bunch of apps for messaging, and there really should be that consolidated solution. Also, from BlackBerry, we have that this security app, retrieving security status. My security status is excellent right now, which is great. And obviously, BlackBerry has a huge focus on security. They do make Android phones now, of course, but security is still a primary focus. Now, this is the first BlackBerry with a dual camera. And that's about all there is to say about that, to be honest. But we could talk a little more. It has a portrait mode, which honestly isn't very good. The front camera isn't very good. You could see some of my photos, and a lot of these will show up. This is the front camera, and it's really just, it's kind of overexposed a little bit. See, my face looks a little red, and I don't love it. This is using the portrait mode. It didn't focus on the subject there. And it comes out okay sometimes, but it's not great. And if you're getting a phone for the camera, which a lot of people do these days, I wouldn't recommend this phone. Really, what the value proposition to this phone is going to be is the physical keyboard. So we have various different things that we could do with the physical keyboard other than the fingerprint reader spacebar. So we have a swipe. We have a swipe gestures. These are off by default, but if I say hello, it's actually not very good. And it's supposed to learn from you. So let's try that again. Hello. Yeah, so you can use it as a swipe keyboard because I found this very hard to use. Obviously, we live in an age where touchscreens have won. Physical keyboards aren't really a thing anymore. BlackBerry's the only one still pushing it, and they're catering to a fan base. And obviously, this fan base loves this thing. I found it very hard to get used to. The swipe gestures are nice. One thing that I don't like at all is the placement. This is the shift key right here. This is the alt key. So if I want to type numbers, I have to hit alt 2, or if I hit it twice, it'll lock on. And on every other keyboard in the world, the shift key is located where this alt key is right here. So I often still, even after using this for a while now, or a week or so, I still find myself hitting that alt key when I mean to hit the shift key. So if I hit this, obviously, whoops, no, I'm still on alt. See, this is the kind of trouble that I run into. So I just turn off the alt there, and now we're on all caps. And this is the kind of trouble that I run into, and I don't love it. And another thing is, when you look at the use case for a modern smartphone, we have things like, obviously, taking notes like I'm doing right now, sending messages, checking social networks, checking email, but also most of us play some kind of games on our phone. And if you don't play any games, that's fine. But I think most people do to some degree. And an issue with that is it's actually really a pain because you put this thing in landscape mode, suddenly you're reaching over here. I end up accidentally hitting the navigation buttons. And it's not great for playing really any mobile games that I could find. What I did enjoy was watching movies on this. I can tell you that because most new phones have really narrow bezels on the side, and they have that 18:9 display. And so you end up kind of covering a little bit of it when you're holding it to watch a movie. It's not an issue here because you can hold it right here on top of the keyboard. The screen is a little bit smaller. It's a 3:2 aspect ratio, 1080p by 1620. And so obviously it's a little small for that, but it's cool that you can hold it. I like that they didn't go that route of decreasing the bezels so low to where it's an issue. We also have lots of shortcut options. So keyboard shortcuts. And what we can do, right? We see long press, short press, and that's what these buttons over here are for. So if I hit this, that I can assign a shortcut to that, and you could have it open an app. You could do all kinds of stuff, send a message. So that's pretty cool. There's also what they're calling a convenience key. That's this key right over here. And you could add shortcuts to this as well. So this key, I mean, I would have it launch the camera, but there's another shortcut where I can just double press the power button, and that launches the camera. I love phones with a physical camera button, and I wish I could have it actually take the picture, but that's all right. I do. Maybe that's in settings somewhere. Obviously, this is not a full review, so if you're waiting for a full review, you're going to want to check back for that in a few weeks. And then there's this productivity screen over here, and you just swipe in from the right to get that. You can see that little tab is always sitting there. This is your calendar here. You can add, whoops, oh, there it goes. You can add events to it, which I don't do. I don't really use this, to be honest. Messaging. No messages, apparently. And I have not found this thing to be useful at all. Tasks to do, contacts, and widgets that you can add to the tab. And I mean, I feel like this stuff is not necessary, but hey, if you like it, it's there, and you could probably turn it off if you particularly want to get rid of this tab that just kind of sits on the right side here. Other than that, other than all of that stuff, it's pretty much a stock experience. And, BlackBerry was promising that kind of stock experience on top of their BlackBerry apps that are there with the messaging hub, which the messaging hub is pretty cool. And it works a lot better than I expected for something that's really just collecting notifications, and it's an app launcher for you, because anything you click on there, it's going to launch the native app. I was curious about how well it was going to work, because I know that a lot of companies have kind of closed down their ecosystem to stuff like this. Obviously, Facebook wants you to use the Facebook app. You used to be able to post to Facebook from various third-party clients, and companies tried to include it in the operating system. Microsoft did it with Windows Phone, and then Facebook started shutting that stuff down. So really, it is just an app launcher, and it works pretty well. I do wonder why they didn't go for a more productivity route here, considering the keyboard. They want it to be a productive phone, obviously, and they brag about that. It's got a USB Type-C port on the bottom. I wonder why they didn't go for a desktop experience that other companies are doing. Microsoft did it with Continuum first, and then Samsung did it with DeX, and Huawei's doing it now, where you can just plug in a USB-C cable, plug it into a dock, and you could plug in a keyboard and mouse and just use it like it's a desktop PC. But you already have the physical keyboard here, so you would think they would be pushing that, maybe a partnership with Microsoft to boost Office productivity. So that's really about it for the KEY2. Other things that came in the box is a USB Type-A charger and the obvious Type-A to Type-C cable. And then there are BlackBerry headphones that came in here too, which I haven't used and I probably won't use. I mean, they're just headphones that come in the box. But yeah, those are our paperwork, SIM pin, and these are our BlackBerry headphones. And it does have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, which is not a given these days, obviously. But yeah, I mean, so far I like it for what it is. When I'm done reviewing this, I'm going to go back to a phone with a touchscreen and a touchscreen keyboard. But it is what it is. It's got lots of storage, lots of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, 6 gigs of RAM. It's got a good processor, a good chipset, the Snapdragon 660, and that allows it to come in at that price point of $649. Because remember, most phones that use the Snapdragon 800 series these days are costing closer to $1,000. So this at least puts it in, well, that's how much flagships used to cost just a few years ago, but they've gotten a lot more expensive. So it keeps it in that we'll say reasonable price range. So that's about it. The dual cameras are 12 megapixels each, and the front camera is 8 megapixels with a fixed focus. And yeah, that's about it. It's mainly the keyboard. What I think that when I review this phone next week, I should. It's going to be for people that want that physical keyboard, because it's not particularly great at anything else. The camera's not wonderful. I mean, it's okay. It's a standard camera like any modern high-end phone. The display is nice, but it's not great for playing games. It's not great for anything. I love that messaging hub. I would love to get that messaging hub on a phone that doesn't have a physical keyboard. But really, this is for people that want the physical keyboard. And I don't think that anybody's going to be won over with this. I don't think anybody's going to say, hey, touchscreen's not really working out for me. I can't wait to get a phone with a physical keyboard again. So this is for people that kind of know what they want here. Anyway, guys, that's it. I'll have a review next week. I'm Rich from NeoWin. Have a great night.